Welcome to the 41st episode of the Tertius Times podcast. Today is Monday, October 18th, 2021. I'm your host, Brian Wright, and today we will look at a news report about the kidnapping of missionaries in Haiti. For the interview segment, I continue to speak with Pastor Wally, who continues his discussion on Christian persecution in the Islamic world. If you are or will be in the Washington, D.C. area on Wednesday, October 27th, you are invited to attend the China Forum 2021. As the website states, the goal of the China Forum is to help Americans understand the nature of the People's Republic of China, the Chinese Communist Party, and key issues in U.S.-China relations. 7 women, 5 men, and 5 children, including a 2-year-old, numbering 16 Americans and 1 Canadian, from the Ohio-based missionary organization Christian Aid Ministries, were kidnapped in the hemisphere's poorest nation, Haiti, on Saturday by the 400 Mawozo gang, quote, notorious for killings, kidnappings, and extortion, unquote, east of the capital Port-au-Prince, according to U.S. and Haiti are seeking the release of 17 missionaries snatched by a gang. October 18th, 2021, from NPR and the AP. Protests have begun in Haiti over the, quote, worsening security situation in the country, as evidenced by the recent abductions. In fact, the missionary organization had no presence in the country for 9 months last year because of the unrest at the time. Furthermore, quote, nearly a year ago, Haitian police issued a warrant poster for the alleged leader of the 400 Mawozo gang, Wilson Joseph, on charges including murder, attempted murder, kidnapping, auto theft, and the hijacking of trucks carrying goods. He goes by the nickname Lanmo Sanjo, which means, quote, death doesn't know which day it's coming, unquote. Today, some streets have been closed by burning tires, and some people have reportedly thrown rocks at passing cars. The president was murdered in July. A 7.2 earthquake struck the country in August, and there has been a dramatic rise in, quote, gang-related kidnappings, unquote, causing many Haitians to, quote, live in temporary shelters in increasingly unhygienic conditions, unquote. This comes just after U.S. officials had visited the country and promised $15 million in aid earmarked for gang violence prevention. Gangs will often seek ransoms from $200 to over $1 million and, quote, sometimes kill those they've abducted, unquote. Kidnappings have increased from 234 in 2020 to 328 for January to August of 2021. The increase in gang violence has forced many Haitians indoors, thus affecting their ability to work, earn money, and provide for their families. Pray for Haiti that the gangs, particularly the 400 Mawozo gang, turn from their violent and predatory ways of kidnapping innocent people. Pray for the victims of the gang's abuses that they will be protected and strengthened through these harrowing experiences. Pray for the leaders of the country that they would be able to effectively counter the work of the gangs and provide real and secure protection for its citizens and visitors alike. Pray especially for the missionaries who have been kidnapped, that God would continue to protect them and provide comfort to them all through their doubts and trepidations. Pray for all the people of Haiti, that they may finally live in a country of peace, of love, acceptance, and provision for all. And now let's rejoin the interview with Pastor Wally. Last week, he was telling us of his life and how he found his way, led by God, to Saudi Arabia and his life as a missionary in the heart of the Middle East, as well as his life in ministry after expulsion from the kingdom. Today, he continues his discussion focusing on Islamic persecution of Christians.
When I was there, Iran attempted to enter Mecca. They had many attempts, many years in the past.
Right.
Everything failed. When I was there, one of their final attempts when I was there was they sent some Iranians, okay, bringing different passports from other Arab nations, to falsely identify themselves non-Iranians, So
Right.
they got in and they intended to massacre the pilgrims. Okay, they intend to massacre the pilgrims and destroy the Grand Mosque in Mecca. But they were caught, and they were caught inside Mecca. When they were caught, their identity was divulged. They were massacred by the Saudi Arabians. It never made it to the news. These two countries, when we were there, always controlled local news. A lot of things going on are never published outside their countries. So that was one thing. It was an eye-opener for someone like me. So, having said all of that, Islam has really become the strongest threat to our Muslim religion, but they saw it in a different light. To them, we are the threats to their religion. I like that version because when I became #1 most wanted, and I was eventually taken in by the authorities, they told me on the night of my abduction that I had become a major threat.
Wow.
Like, wow, what a great commendation.
Yeah, and what army stood behind you?
The army of the Lord.
I mean, you were just one person with, sharing the good news of Christ, and that was a threat.
Yeah, they found me a threat. It's so funny because when they found me a threat, they distributed a letter to every government agency back in the day there, and they were looking for me. I became the #1 most wanted person. I knew that. I realized that because my boss, I'm not going to mention who he is, but high up, in the military, he confided that to me. He showed me the letter.
Wow.
And he actually told me to keep the letter and pretend that it never existed. So in other words, these people, although they like us as their workers, they don't like us to be friends with them. They really hate us. America, when I was there, was considered the Satan.
Yes.
Satan's head in the world. Well, they have valid reasons. They tell me this almost on a daily basis. How can you say that America is a Christian nation when all kinds of filth come from America? Look at Hollywood producing all kinds of pornographic movies. Look at your vineyards producing all kinds of wines and alcoholic beverages. Look at the crimes in America. Look at all the pornography, all this prostitution. So they were saying all kinds of negative things about America.
But and they weren't necessarily wrong, though.
No, yeah, they were
always
actually
that element of truth.
Right to observation. They were correct. I did not counter that. I did not come against it. But I told them this. I said, not everything that comes out of America means that they're Christian. Right. Because they look at America as a Christian nation.
Right.
That's it. And
but that's how they understand themselves.
Yes.
They were born Muslim, so that means they're Muslim. They live in an Islamic country, so that makes them Islamic. That makes them Muslims.
Yeah.
And
it's all they knew from birth.
Right. So they project that onto us that, oh, you were born in America, you must be a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
the image is negative.
Right. But that doesn't it's a completely different way of thinking.
Yeah.
And they don't understand.
But you see, that's why it's important for us to understand what Christ said in John 10, verse 16. Because if you have that in your heart, you won't be antagonized. You won't even look at them like your enemy, but you see them as opportunities to hear the gospel.
We will leave the interview there and pick it up tomorrow, where Pastor Wally will continue to share his thoughts on Christian persecution in an Islamic context. As I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, if you are or will be in the Washington, D.C. area On Wednesday, October 27th, you are invited to attend the China Forum 2021. Again, as the website states, the goal of the China Forum is to help Americans understand the nature of the People's Republic of China, the Chinese Communist Party, and key issues in U.S.-China relations. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you found the information and interview presented here useful and that it encouraged you to pray for these people and areas of concern, and perhaps even inspires you to take positive steps of involvement to alleviate the suffering of so many around the globe. Continue to pray for those mentioned today as you are led. Finally, pray with me that God's peace, eternally beyond our comprehension, guard the lives of all those who follow Christ and flow outward to bring that peace to all the world.